Kenya is celebrating Mental Health Awareness observed annually during the second week of May. Specifically, Mental Health Awareness Week 2024 took place from 13th to 19th May 2024. The theme of this year was Where to Start, emphasizing the importance of taking that crucial first step toward healing, resilience, and self-discovery in the context of mental well-being. But to begin with, what is mental health?
My name is Dr. Mushero Wangombe. I'm a psychiatrist. Mental health is defined as, I'll start with good mental health because it's something that we should have for ourselves. It's the ability for me and others to look after ourselves, first and foremost. Second, it's the ability to form relationships with other people, trusting relationships. You're able to love others and form trusting relationships. It's also the ability to take disappointment with stride and to be able to contribute to one's own community.
As people and experts talk about mental health, the majority acknowledge society's behavioral changes, yet are not aware that the changes are attributed to illness related to mental health. It is encouraging that the government has woken from slumber to do something about mental health, as Presenter Latif points.
A number of things have emerged in the country in the last number of years, okay? And it got to a point where we saw the government itself actually realize that there's something happening and even form a task force to look at the mental health and the well-being of and the happiness of the Kenyans.
Today, if you listen to the news, there are a lot of strange and disturbing reports. And as Eric Githuku, a counseling psychologist, says,
the current state of mental health among Kenyans is actually quite worrying. We see it on the news every day. We have homicides, we have suicides, we have rising rates of alcoholism. From my perspective, we are not well. We have stress, we have joblessness, especially joblessness, and Kenyans are just, at this rate, we are hopeless.
This is the exact state of mental health in the country. This, however, brings us to want to understand what happens when one has mental health problem, as explained by the psychiatrist Dr. Monica Mucheru.
Should one have mental health problems, then you may find the person has difficulties. One, functioning socially or occupationally, meaning they are not able to relate with others as they should. They are not able to go to school, for example, if you're a student, because that's your occupation. Or you're not able to go to work and contribute productively to society. So then what happens when you have a mental health problem? You may have problems regulating your emotions. You may have problems with behavior. Your behavior may not be what is expected, or you may have problems with your thought pattern.
Experts have put forward common mental health problems like anxiety, depression, and bipolar disorder among many related types. Nonetheless, many people who know about these ailments do not clearly understand how they manifest, or they are in denial.
The neurologist looked at and examined her everything, her nerves and everything, and he just came up with a diagnosis that he thinks that Zaria's problem is mental. It is just in her brain. And all those visits to the doctor, I was quite in denial. Irene would say, maybe Zaria, and she would tell me that Zaria is suffering. And I would think, what depression? I have a father who's provided everything. What should she be depressed about? And I was in denial. I didn't know anything about this mental illness.
This is what counseling psychologist Anthony Njenga says about depression as one of the mental illness.
Depression is a common and serious medical illness that negatively affects how you think, the way you feel, and how you act.
It is sane for one to wonder how and where this illness emanated from, and the causes or factors exacerbating mental illness.
First one is abuse. If you're undergoing physical abuse currently, or you had undergone physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, that could be a risk factor or a cause to depression. The other one is age. Most elderly people are at risk. The third one is death or loss, because there are stages of loss and grief. There's denial, there's anger, there's bargaining, there's depression, there's acceptance. The other one could be gender. Can I shock you? Do you know women are at risk of depression than men based on their hormonal changes? The other thing that could be a risk factor or cause of depression is genetics or genes. Maybe your parent or one of your family members has a history of depression. Another thing is substance misuse, alcohol. One of the indelible factors as cited by clinical psychologist Diana Wuche is the disruption of the social structure.
When we look at our background, we had factors that helped us to deal with our issues. You had your aunties, you had your uncles, you had your grandparents, you had your cousins around you to talk about what was going on with you. You never felt like you're alone. So now this urban setting, all of a sudden, it's about rush to go to work, to take your kids to school, to do 1, 2, 3, and forgetting yourself. There's no structure. The family structure, as we know, as it was before, helped us in dealing with our mental issues. But now it does not support that because the father is busy running to look for money, do his business. The mother is busy, the kids are left on their own.
Dr. Yusuf Mohammed and the clinical psychologist Njenga give us more causes of the surge in mental illness among the population.
As long as an individual is unable to cope with the normal life stresses or unable to cope with internal problems that they have, like diseases or ailments, or unable to cope with various individuals at their workplaces, we will find that there's an element of mental health issues in those regards. So it's an area that is quite broad, but exactly how we are doing, personally I say we are not doing so well.
First one is abuse. If you're undergoing physical abuse currently, or you had undergone physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, that could be a risk factor or a cause to depression. The other one is age. Most elderly people are at risk. The third one is death or loss, because there are stages of loss and grief. There's denial, there's anger, there's bargaining, there's depression, there's acceptance. The other one could be gender. Can I shock you? Do you know women are at risk of depression than men based on their hormonal changes? The other thing that could be a risk factor or cause of depression is genetics or genes. Maybe your parent or one of your family members has a history of depression. Another thing is substance misuse, alcohol.
These are several behaviors that people portray which are symptoms of depression or mental ill health, says Njenga.
The most common one is isolating yourself. You find yourself not wanting to engage yourself in social events or activities you used to love doing. Maybe you're a person who used to go for swimming, used to do golf. You start avoiding or isolating yourself, or maybe keeping yourself away from activities, maybe family events. A sign of somebody who is undergoing depression, the overweight. The other symptom is suicidal attempts.
The professionals, former mental ill victims, media and the government have put a lot of effort into creating awareness of mental wellness. Some of healed patients have come out openly to share their stories. And these are the beautiful stories of Ruth Waithera, Victor Njuki, student, and August Cherop. Although Ruth, Victor Cherop, and other Kenyans are coming out to share their stories and champion mental wellness, there are a lot of challenges that naturally inhibit their struggles.
I was diagnosed with PTSD. So PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder. I didn't know this up to 2 years later from the day I was experiencing this. Many a times I had this anger outburst. And since I have siblings, I realized that when I shouted at them and I was just angry at them for no reason, is when I discovered I am depressed.
My story started like 3 years ago, where I fell into depression. Okay, at first I never realized that I was there, you know. For me, I felt like, okay, life was still the same, but some things were not the same, you know. But then again, was some things that felt like too much, you know, like sometimes you'd feel like my brain is exploding, you know. And basically my normal routine wasn't the same. Like I would literally wake up and I feel like literally I don't want to do anything, just want to stay idle, you know. At that time, you know, I never had someone who could like tell me, yeah, there's something not right with you, because I literally tried hard to hide it, you know, because now you literally don't want people to think that you're facing this thing, because you feel like if people notice you have an issue, maybe people start giving space.
About 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with anxiety. Before I realized I had it, I was losing concentration. Then like I was feeling sad. Sometimes my muscles could knock out. Yeah, until when I visited an hospital, then I found out I had it.
Diana Woche is a clinical psychologist.
I will say 5 years from now, 10 years from now, things were a bit, but right now we're seeing progress of people saying, yes, I need help and I need to seek therapy. There are a couple of ways to look at it. One is the availability of this healthcare profession, people who are experts and who can offer help. There are very few in this country. Actually, people who are qualified to offer the services. And number two is also about are people able to afford.
It is important to know that mental health problems are not only Kenyans' problem, rather a problem that affects people over the world.
One of the biggest challenges that we are facing here in the US as immigrants is the challenge of mental health. Please, let's take care of each other. Talk about mental health. Share whatever issues that you're going. Find somebody to talk to when you're going through something. Check on your people. Check on your friends. Check on your co-workers. Check on your neighbors.
Tom Osborne and other open individuals are Kenyans that live abroad and can attest to that.
Mental health is not a Kenyan problem. It is not an African problem. This is a global problem. We need big ideas to tackle this problem. And our case for optimism is that our youth-oriented, community-focused model can be a template for the rest of the world.
The government of Kenya has made strides towards ensuring mental wellness of our citizens. Senator Victoria is among the leaders at the forefront of this work on the formulation forefront.
To integrate mental health with the healthcare system. And that is very critical, that every hospital, level 1, level 2, level 3 going on should have a battalion of mental health practitioners who work alongside other physical healthcare workers, so that somebody can get like a wholesome approach to healthcare. And then lastly is the stigma. Stigma still remains the biggest issue. And I'll tell you what we've done here in Parliament. Of course, besides sponsoring the bill, and the bill I'm happy is back in Parliament again, is the issue of fighting stigma. We've gone ahead and rolled out a campaign we are calling out Fungua Roho campaign.
Indeed, the government cares, as emphasized by Dr. Frank Njenga, former chair mental health task force that was formed by President Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta.
One of the key activities of government in the next few years is ensuring that all Kenyans have access to affordable mental health care.
An expert, Diana Wuche, shares a message that breathes the breath of hope to the progress of the campaign awareness on mental health.
And we have more people. It's good when we have these days more men and more women coming out and saying, I was abused, this is what happened to me. We need to keep those conversations going, because to give it a human face.
Report by Omondi Isaac.